me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, got a filled up engine. In my thoughts, obsession. I will not stop, no, I'm never second guessing. I got a God complex.
This is Richard Moore, USAGSA. And today I've got with me Emanuel Pastreich. He's in Tokyo, and David Lorlano. I hope I got close. And he's in Australia. Are you near Sydney, David?
I'm not. I'm actually in between sort of Melbourne and Sydney. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so these two individuals, folks, are in their own right experts, if you will, and in the subjects that we're going to talk about. And I haven't had David on before. I've spoken with him before, but we haven't done a show and broadcast it, but we're doing it now. And we kind of want to, for a subject here, is what's really going on. We've got the war in Gaza and all this business with the Epstein files, or the lack thereof. We all thought there'd be a list, and of course, the big, beautiful bill got passed. And seems like there was maybe a trade-off on that list not being disclosed. We may never see that. But when all these things are going on, I always tend to believe that that's simply a diversion or a distraction from what perhaps is really going on. Not to say that these things that are not serious and important. But that being the case, I fear that there's probably something even more serious and more important that is taking place, and so I kind of want to bring that to the forefront, and maybe Emanuel, you can or David, either one can weigh in on this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, maybe I'll just say too, just very briefly, we're not trying to just discount how serious Epstein files are, or Gaza, or the other things going on in the world. But there is a new form of warfare, which is taking place around the world. But the United States, Israel, UK, or Australia are ground zero for a lot of the testing for it. And it's a new form of sort of multilateral and supercomputer driven targeting and wearing down of people. And this new form of war is going to be the primary form of war. And a lot of countries all over the world who bought fighter planes and things, they missed the boat. I think that was done intentionally. That this kind of war is, I would say there are several stages to it. The first is dumbing people down.
Yes, the war of the mind.
Both in terms of media content. Yeah. Showing them stupid movies and then getting them addicted to pornography and YouTube videos, stupid cat videos and cafe lattes, and then destroying neighborhoods, separating people from each other, building walls where they don't need walls, and sort of Gazification of the country. And then the next stage, which is individuals who are targeted specifically, particular groups of people based on either ethnicity or similar thinking. And that's primarily driven by finding groups that the powers that be think might form some sort of meaningful resistance, like us. And then finally, moving towards the concentration camps, forced deportations, and then ultimately moving from killings. And now, I mean, the United States is already, I would say, in the equivalent of the 1850s in terms of the level of violence. I mean, 1850s was moving towards a civil war, but if you actually had the real statistics, which obviously we don't have, and you're not going to get anywhere online, in terms of number of people killed every day in the United States from shootings that are staged, for mass shootings, from police violence, from all sorts of other killings, that it's now getting up in the many thousands of people. And that doesn't even include people who are killed in other ways through a very intentional agenda. And so I guess I would kind of say that's the war. I add one last word, and that's about this idea of AI. And AI is a vague term, and I don't want to say too much about it, but there is increasingly an effort as part of this warfare to disorient people by creating all these sort of false scenarios, information, in order to keep us from coming together. And that is a critical part of making sure that when this war goes to the next stage, that whether it's people who are brainwashed and foolish, watching their pornography, people crippled by vaccines, or people disoriented and fighting themselves over, trans issues or whatever, that they're not going to be able to come together and form a resistance.
Well, this is what you're suggesting is that we're going through essentially a purge. Well, here in the real thing. And we're seeing that unfold, and of course, it's this is a psychological warfare on a grand scale, and all made possible by AI. And X just rolled out their new Gork, their AI. That's I haven't taken it for a spin yet, but its skill set is even more advanced than Chat GBT. Is what I'm hearing, and it's a game changer. But
it's
go ahead.
Right, but it's still a false god. I mean,
exactly.
It's saying that it's telling you the truth based on its own knowledge, right?
Absolutely.
But it can be manipulated by the hidden hand.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll say that's absolutely what's happening, and you're right. The false god term, I think, is a very apt one. Satan was jealous of God and his ability to control everything and to see everything, and so what we've seen is that Satan's hands in this case, where he is using people to get what he wants, and that is he wants to be omnipresent. He wants to be able to control people. He wants to be able to direct the course of history. And scriptures say this will be something that happens for a period of time, not something that's going to actually continue to be. It's only for a certain amount of time that Satan will be granted that power, and that's part of God's plan, I guess. Yeah. If we're talking from a scriptural point of view, of course, from a technocratic point of view, our main issue at the moment is obviously mind control. So people's minds now are not their own. Particularly en masse, we saw the rollout of the foul vaccines from which actually came out of the military-industrial complex. They didn't come out of the Pfizer and all the companies, Moderna. They were all fronts. They were all the face, so that people thought that they were a legitimate thing. But these were designed out of NIH and out of integration with the China and with all different players, and they all linked back to DARPA and the military-industrial complex and the shadow state. And so the aim was to get to basically impregnate
where does Lockheed
humans,
Martin fit into this deal, David?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, big names in the military-industrial complex. Absolutely. And Giordano said this going back before the pandemic came along, like a number of years, 2016, that the new war is the war on the mind. And funnily enough, I saw slides out of NASA, and now I happen to think that NASA is meant to be about a space program, but I believe that the space that NASA is concerned with is the space between the ears.
It's absolutely
it's got
correct.
nothing to do with outer space.
I believe that the moon landing was bogus. That's I didn't believe that for years, but I know we're not here to talk about that, but I believe that was just like Ronald Reagan's Star Wars and the beating the Russians to the moon. All these things were just a psyop.
Well, I mean, the thing about NASA, I mean, I was actually going to write about NASA recently, but there's a classic formula of like mixing some stuff which is real with things that are fake. And whether, I mean, this is what we're seeing increasingly is the case. So if NASA, if it was totally made up, it would not be that effective. I mean, people would eventually figure it out.
Nobody's going to believe a flat out lie, but you mix a little truth with it.
But some of the stuff that NASA does is real. But a lot of it is not. And a lot of what it does has absolutely nothing to do with space at all, right? It has to do with these issues, mind control. And it's like the whole UFO, campaigns that have been used to basically create factions, for example. So if you want to talk about some information which is classified, NASA or the CIA will force you to throw in some UFO trash. Otherwise, they won't allow you to talk about it. So, it's always being mixed together with junk. And that's what keeps us from coming together.
That's the deception, isn't it? They want to deceive because they want people to be blaming. The way I see it now, and I'm seeing this again and again, they want us to be blaming targets that you can't litigate against. Right. You can't take them to court. You can't take aliens to court. You can't take demons to court. You can't take angels to court. You can't take, do you know what I mean? So
I've always said something. Every person I've ever heard talk about these being abducted by an alien, the only synonymous thread I could find is that they were somehow probed. And
exactly right. And that's the probing's real. I don't think it's an alien doing it though.
Right. I'd like to know who did the probing, and that's what we need to get to the bottom of. Is I believe there's a probing going on, in every sense of the word, probing. I'd like to know who is actually behind that.
Absolutely.
And don't blame it on the aliens.
And so the crazy thing, the technology, I mean, the few bits of technology that I think are really relevant at this point in time are our EMF radio-based technology, so your satellites and cell towers and even our electrical devices have been weaponized against us. And then to make us receptive is nanotechnology. Now, this stuff, apparently, since the 1940s, they've been able to float this stuff down on a cloud and put it in someone's face. It goes up into your head, and then all of a sudden you're a radio. It turns you into a radio. So just breathing this stuff in through your nose is enough for you to become radio sensitive. And so these are tiny little microscopic particles, and then they can actually, it's to the point now where they can actually tune into you specifically and have voices or have high pitch that is debilitating. Like it can disable a person. Right. I think the technocracy's aim.
There's a problem with especially amongst those that identify, I hate to use that word, but those that are know that they're being targeted somehow, and it is real. You're not imagining it, but of having to battle with constantly being worn down and tired and so forth. You think that? Explain that. Is that part of the 5G or 6G geofence that we have around everybody, or what?
Yeah, I think they're trying to, for some reason, I mean, the consistency I see on my Substack when I get people talking, I see a very high proportion of people who are dissident. They'd be considered dissident by the establishment, who are activists, who are speaking out against the New World Order. There are those people who are investigating topics such as child trafficking, or those people who are speaking out against the climate change concept.
They're being zapped. They're being zapped or hit with something.
They are. They actually, and the most common thing is when I ask people when did it start for them, you know what the most common answer is? 2022.
Really?
So why is it that 2022 was such a common year? There are people who have been targeted for decades, mind you. So this technology has been around for a long time.
So what happened in 2022?
Well, when was the pandemic, and when did they start jabbing people?
Okay.
Right. The jabbing.
I'm telling you.
And that's known to have graphene oxide in it, and that graphene oxide is what electrifies the people. So these tiny strands, but that wasn't enough for them, and they don't have as big a hold on people as people like to think. It's not the end of the world once you're wired into the system. They have to keep you in that, and that's why they're spraying people constantly. Like I'm looking out at chemtrails right now today. It is just a blanket of filth in the sky.
Right.
They have to keep spraying it because people have to keep inhaling it. It goes up into the brain, and that allows them not only just to harass people, not only so you hear it,
and of course
they can read your mind.
Big Brother continues to dispel the chemtrails as just the
contrails.
Never happened.
Right, and that's just a major conspiracy deal. But I find it odd that Florida just passed a law. DeSantis, he was involved in it, but against weather manipulation in the state of Florida, and so this isn't weather manipulation, and that's why that's an absolutely useless. It's a useless actual law, because as soon as they look into it and they know what's going on, they'll hide behind classified. It's you can't, and then they'll say it's not weather manipulation. It's actually mind control manipulation. Most of what's going in the air. Well, what about the weather with it? What about this? That's recently deal with Trump and this so-called military's deal here in the U.S. with what they're calling the Golden Dome. Have y'all heard of that? And that is
where's that money going?
That's what you're talking about. It's putting these chemicals or biochemicals or whatever in the atmosphere as some type of protection for the homeland.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about this because I've only heard the term and I haven't heard much on the details.
Well, there's a lot. When you look at Golden Dome, it's it'll take you to a million different places. So you have specifically the United States military and Donald Trump and the Golden Dome, and have that into your equation, and you'll get intel on that. And it's a program that's in play. And they've asked for, I believe, $150 billion over the span of a few years for this program. And this is to a defense mechanism in the atmosphere over the United States of America. And it's a chemical apparatus. It's not a conventional weapon or anything like that.
Not an anti-missile.
No, not missiles.
Well, I mean, that sounds to me like another excuse for them to be painting more and more crap into the sky, which is most likely it continues to be surveillance and mind control technology in the form of nanoparticulates. And so people
hear mind control, they think, oh, it's a crazy conspiracy. But give us an example of what what you're saying when you say mind control.
All right. So I'm using that under a very, very broad paintbrush, to try to paint something that's a very complex and nuanced. There are many elements to it. But as I said, the general concept is people might be familiar with smart dust, which has been in the media and talked about since the early 2000s,
right?
When they first started. And this is when they had a full picture of what they are doing now back then. So from what I've read, in fact, there's an excellent NASA document that outlines it was them saying, what is the future warfare? And it outlines all that's happening right now, including the nanotech, including the control of the mind, the neuromodulation, ability to see people's minds, to be able to trace them and track them.
Exactly.
To be able to, and so this is
big
what
tech,
we're talking
big tech.
about. So,
they're using. We have been the petri dish of this deal for years. So how do they know if this stuff works? Well, they've got to try it out on people, guinea pig people, and and so that dovetailed nicely into this community policing deal and so forth. They're able to, and they still continue to do that, and continue to broaden that to violate people's rights and their rights to even be a human being. And it's all done under the guise of a safer fill in the blanks.
As it always is, isn't it? It's like you scare people into cheering for their own enslavement, which is what we're seeing, right?
Patriot Act.
You want people, and so I'm seeing a major divide being driven. Like in terms of a history of it, by the way, speakers like whistleblower Brian Coffron, who actually worked for Amazon. He worked for Amazon. So this gives you an idea of some of the players involved. Some of these aren't government at all. Some of these are actually private enterprises who are putting this technology into people, and they're doing it in front of, like, they've probably got the support of the government. But he worked for Amazon, and he was talking about that there was whole towns, whole cities in the US that were under control of this surveillance tech. Basically, that involves them all being impregnated with all this stuff they're breathing. They've got no idea that it's
I've done a couple of shows on this surveillance tech, and the Institute for Justice here is challenging a couple of municipalities over this surveillance, and it's not. And this is used in people. It looks like it's a traffic cam. But when you see these at every intersection, millions of dollars worth of equipment, just to see if somebody runs a red light, and you believe all that, then trust me on this, it's those that believe all that, don't question it, is the reasons that we're getting this. But the information that these municipalities are getting from these traffic cams, or they're not just traffic cams, is they're getting all the identifiers of every person, their tags, and it parlays from everywhere they go into the retail establishment where they live, and all of this data is made available to law enforcement only.
Well, I wanted to say something about the nature of the collection of information, and some people, I think, are not fully aware that the recent moves in the data fusion, and especially the efforts of Palantir and these new players, and that is when the camera takes a picture of you walking down the street or driving, going in the mall, and then takes a picture of you tomorrow, right? It's not simply two pictures of you that in their database so they can track you. It also it covers the expression on your face, your mood, your behavior patterns, and this is integrated with all the information they gather in terms of what you're buying, your trips to the doctor, your visits with your friends, your girlfriend, whatever. And this is not only aimed, I mean, it's not primarily aimed at figuring out what you're thinking now, but it's aimed primarily at modifying how you will behave going forward. So if this analysis of both the individual, the group, the population as a whole, indicates do this sort of stimulation, and the person will become more passive, more discouraged.
And everything you do online is, and you do more online than you realize. But we have everything is
right.
Smart appliances and all that. Your automobile, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
Each one of us, all at the same time, using Google, could put in the same exact query and get 3 different sets of results. They're not going to be the same results. You might get it's not going to be in the same order. It's going to your results based on what the information that Google collects is going to be different than my results. It's going to be skewed. Now, how many people said, I was thinking about this and this was going on, and then I logged on to Facebook and there it was, and people were talking about it. And
what a miracle!
Well, I'll tell you what, God ain't got anything to do with it. So you can quit giving God the credit, getting on there, thank you, God, and all that. He's not on Facebook.
That's the false God there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's it's the critical point that I think a lot of people miss is it's not merely that they're spying on you and figuring out where you are, what you're doing, but they're trying to modify your behavior over time.
Right.
And we see this. I mean, what I referred to in a recent article as Gazification. But in certain neighborhoods, you'll see, and this is going on at the same time as we have the use of nanotechnology and other things to affect the brain. But in your street, for example, you'll see plastic cones every 3 feet or every meter or so, and then 6 months later there'll be a concrete pole there, right? And then a year later there'll be a chain link between the poles. And then 2 years later, it'll be like a wall, like a virtual something you can't cross the street. And so over time, your neighborhood is increasingly looking like a prison, but it's advanced slowly so that most people cannot detect these changes in their environment. And that was the model that was used in the occupied territories, and in a very sophisticated way. That many people talk about war, and this is, I think, is a critical point. The media says in war we have to move fast, right? We have lightning strikes, but in fact, in war, often it's the complete opposite. It has to be so slow.
I liken it to it's this simple.
Right.
If you've ever cooked a lobster, you don't get the water and get the water boiling and throw the lobster in. Why? Because the lobster goes into shock. The meat's tough. You put the lobster at room temperature water and you gradually raise the heat. The lobster has no idea he's being cooked. It lulls him to sleep, and he's cooked and without even knowing it. And so essentially that is what is going on with this deal. It's just a slow cook. We're lulled into
slow cook.
We're staggering around, sleepy, and next thing we know, it's over with. They've got our mind.
You're cooked.
You're cooked. You're cooked. Stick a fork all the way through.
Yeah,
you're
for
done.
sure.
Right.
And so I think something to note at the moment is just how prolific the handle on the mind is. So my belief is that nearly the majority of the population, the massive, you mentioned something about the amount being spent on the golden.
Yeah, 150 billion.
It is golden. It's not McDonald's. But for Stargate, which I believe most of that's going to go to Palantir, because what it's about is massive data centers which will hold all this information, which is the modulation of our brain activity. That is everything, not everything just that you say. And I know I'm not even talking about on a phone. So all of a sudden, I mean, this smart dust has piezoelectric transducers in it, or actuators, that when you talk, they vibrate, they send a vibration, and then the satellites can pick up what that vibration is.
Amazing.
And they hear what you're talking about anywhere. Doesn't matter where
Palantir
you
just
are.
set up
But
an
then
outpost
something
in
gets breathed
Israel,
into the
by the
nose
way.
and up through.
They set up an outpost where?
Israel.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little.
I can't hear.
I said they set up an outpost in Israel.
Yeah, they are big on this surveillance stuff. They are involved very much, like Pegasus, which is our phone monitoring and all that stuff coming out of Israel. Right. And I imagine they are very much involved in the monitoring of, not to mention all Five Eyes countries.
I wrote a little bit about this. There was a book in 2011 called Startup Nation about Israel. It was out by, I think it's from the Council on Foreign Relations, but basically marketing Israel as this tremendous environment for innovation and startup companies. And the book talks primarily about the role of IDF, Israel's defense forces, in creating new technologies. And that process, this is especially from 2005, 2010, basically it merged the IT contractors in the U.S. and Israel. So you can't really divide them anymore. And so especially Oracle and Palantir, which are the most severe, I mean, especially with CARP. Essentially, there is no difference between Israel and the United States, and there's really no difference between Netanyahu and Trump. But Oracle is, of course, the other major player in that respect, and they all have their fingers all over this. And the question of nanotechnology, I mean, this is also global. It's not just the U.S. and Israel. Right. But most of the nanotechnology budgets, not only budgets, but research at universities is all completely classified. So we have almost no way to gauge the scale, the amount of money being spent, or what even is being developed. We can get it, indirectly, and we can anticipate as we have to, based upon our ability to interpolate.
Absolutely. I've watched, it's really funny actually, like even the biggest voices out there speaking about geoengineering, because basically I want to speak about that actually. So the chemtrails thing. So you've got contrails. This is the layers of the onion. This is how the interstate work. They have layers and layers of what is psyops. All right. So, I mean, they want to be able to spray neural dust, say, so that it goes up into your brain, they can read everyone's mind. So what do? They say, no, they're not chemtrails, they're contrails. And then it's like, okay, no, people realize, no, they're chemtrails. Okay, they're chemtrails, yeah, but they're for weather control. Right. And it's like, no, but it's not for weather control. Right. And so they realize, no, it's not for weather control, it's actually for blocking out the sun. No, it's not actually for blocking out the sun. It's actually so people inhale it. It goes up into their brains, and then they can, and in throughout their body, so they can measure your heart rate, your blood pressure, how stressed you are, what you're saying, what you're thinking, and then they can modulate back into your head as well when they want you to be.
Well, can any of that possibly go wrong? Could any of that possibly go wrong and change the weather and kill hundreds of children in Texas?
Absolutely. When we're talking about the weather, they do weather control, but my personal view is the majority of what's going in. I mean, it's actually with the same stuff. Graphene oxide allows both control of our weather patterns, like wind and so on, because what they can do is highly ionize the air. And when you ionize air, I don't know if you've ever used a little ionizer before, but you can put your hand over the top of it and you can feel a current. When you start pumping out ions, it produces a current. Now, what you can do with graphene oxide is that you can, there's a place called, they're called ART, Australian Rain Technologies, that was happening over here in New South Wales. And all they were doing was firing ions into the sky, into a patch in the sky, and they were increasing the rainfall by 20 to 30% a year by doing it. No, they didn't tell anyone, by the way, because otherwise people would be going, you're saying it's like that there's some kind of global weather crisis, and you're just sitting there affecting the rain and increasing the rain over here. Like, how about, what if it's your fault that the weather's changing? Do you know what I mean? As soon as they admit to manipulating the weather,
define God's
the climate
intention.
crisis becomes like questionable.
I think it's a define affront to God himself.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's like they in every aspect they wish to play God. And
no, that's true. That's 100% true. And we see this. I mean, if you talk to, I mean, I mentioned about Alex Carpet Palantir, but you can see that sort of the psychosis really setting in, that they are imagines himself and Carp for, I mean, but not just them. Larry Ellison. I mean, if you look at these individuals, Bezos, they have been seized by this that sort of
lust,
hubris, and that vision, that desire. I mean, I as I mentioned, I think to you, David, the other day. I mean, Paradise Lost, I find to be one of the most thoughtful sort of analysis of the nature of evil and how people are drawn to it, you know, and that's in some ways that's also part of the conspiracy. I think is this idea that evil is going to be, you know, this monster with horns, you know, everyone can spot evil. It's going to be obvious who evil enemy is. But that's not how evil works at all. I mean, evil is attractive. Evil is transparent. It becomes what you want it to be, and it's right there next to you, right? It's sitting on your shoulder all the time, and that's how this real war is going on. The war is not just over there, right? It's not
Larry Flint didn't build their empires off of things that were ugly.
Absolutely. Actually, this is all in scriptures as well, isn't it? Theologians too speaks about a time where the great apostasy occurs, which is when people stop believing in spirit. And at that point in time, there will be a great a person who puts themselves out there and calls themselves God. Absolutely. They say they'll sit there and declare themselves God. They'll say, "I am your God."
That's right.
And guess what?
With the help of
that's what we're seeing. Right. They actually, and basically at this point in time, that person will declare themselves as God over the people. But this will happen just before it'll all come crumbling down, because it's as you say, hubris. They are so proud and arrogant that they can't even see what they're doing. Right. They are just taken by lust for power, lust for knowledge, like so much. It's like Smeagol in Lord of the Rings, you know, my precious. You know, they want all the data. They want all everything in your mind and all the power.
And all of this is always sold under the premise of better, more safety, protection, etc., etc. Of course, you know, people dare speak against that. You know,
classic.
Yeah, or it's for the children. Don't
you be a terrorist?
Protect the children. And those, you know, save the children. and they want to save the children. All right, I can promise you, in Epstein style, they want to save the children. Not like you think.
Right.
They say conversion is what it is, and they are doing the will of Satan. And I even went as far to say, is the program of the way this mind control system is working to actually lead us away from God? And I don't know if it's been a deliberate choice for that, like whether it's a spiritual battle that's like filtered down from top down, or whether it's just materialism. You know, like what does the military-industrial complex care about, for example? It's all about money. Those who are allowing it to continue war after war after war after war, they sell weapons to both sides and then profit on it. I mean, that's just about money, isn't it? It's about money and control. It's like get their two enemies to fight each other, like Israel and Iran, and then the US makes a kit mozza selling weapons.
Right.
So You know,
Well,
this is what's happening.
Iran now is also a major player in military drones, selling them abroad, as is Israel. Now the top countries for military drones are Iran, Turkey, Israel, in that area, and the United States and China. And so they're competitors in selling drones, and they are also competitors in geopolitics. But I think people would be shocked to see the amount of footsie being played with these so-called competitors.
That's right. Not competitors at all.
Iran and Israel is the most classic of those, but Germany and Russia in cows, right? Going from domestication and then GMO modification, and then how pigs and cows are I mean, not only geometric patterns of behavior and how they're treated in factory farms.
At every level. So essentially the democracy, which is one of our big plays. I mean, if you look at Trump's cabinet actually now and just go through all the people that he's put in there, they are all out of tech. They're all out of big tech. They're all out of data. They're all out of analysis, AI. They are all coming from technology companies. None of them come
speaking of
from
tech,
anywhere else.
speaking of tech, we're getting this internet connection is just getting horrible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've noticed there's been a bit of jumping around. It happens at inopportune times. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks to our local fusion center, we can always depend on them to mash buttons every time we start talking about something they don't want to talk about. They'd rather be talking about kitty cats or playing fart videos.
Right. Exactly.
Something stupid.
Exactly right.
God forbid they talk about anything real.
Yeah, well, they don't even need the people anymore to sit there and monitor what people are saying to interrupt their stream.
No,
they can simply make the AI do it for them, right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, and that's what's happening. And so the technocracy is eyes and ears everywhere. Eyes, ears, but not only that, they want to map the processes of the physical world. This is why also part of the spraying of the whole thing. It's not just to get it up inside your nostrils. It's to go all over the plants. It's to go all over the ground. It's to go all over the cars. It's to go all over. And then they can look at the world as a big 3D model, and they can model where each of those things goes to and from, and how long it took to get from here to there, and
all about power and control,
right down into the processes of your
make everything better.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's their idea. That's the official line, is to make everything better. We want to be able to see everything so that we can make it more efficient. But it's like I draw the line when they're trying to make my internal processes. They've made my toilet visits more efficient.
Of course.
By what they're doing with their radiation of my stomach. You know what I mean? Like I draw the line when it's my own bodily functions being affected, and I've got no control over it.
Yeah.
That's not on, mate. Like you've got to draw the line. And when they make my brain processes more efficient, I prefer to just keep my own brain processes. Thank you very much. Right. But you know what I mean? It's gotten a bit ridiculous, hasn't it?
I mean,
when it starts to get to that point.
I mean, one of the sort of most banal aspects of it is the sort of Google search. So this has been played out over 25 years, basically. But first to sort of acclimatize, familiarize people with using Google search as a way to get information, which actually narrows the way in which you perceive the world. And then to change the answer. So I used Google. I even do it today, although I don't do it with everything. But the response, the things I get from Google are a fraction of what I got 15 years ago.
Of course.
Google search now, and they're much more biased.
Right.
So, and my educated guess is that when they started, they already had calculated out using supercomputers a algorithm for how to sort of dumb down and narrow down Google over a 15, 20-year period. And again, doing it at a rate which most people are unaware of, so that most people are thinking, oh, the world's the same, and Google's there, and the world around me is the same. The sort of signifiers of normality or normalcy are in place. But in fact, behind that curtain, everything has been.
Yeah, well, I believe it's been a military operation. The internet was a military operation, and so Google's been a military operation from day dot. It's been an intel. It is one of the most prolific wings of the Intel state is Google. Think about it.
Right.
It's got every single person. Everyone went and got a Gmail account. Everyone uses Google search. Yeah. So they knew, and people don't get it. People go, oh, I don't use AI because it's the enemy stuff, like people who are like meant to be truthers. And I kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, you use it every day. Whenever you go to Google, you're using AI. Google is an AI. Google AI, so Google search is just one step below what an AI is, okay? Because it already takes your statement and it can interpret what it is you want it for. Like what you were saying earlier, it's not everyone gets the same response. It's different for every person. So that's an AI. That's AI. So it's just a few steps before what we've got now with our chatbots and stuff like that. A guy named Robert Epstein actually looked into Google, and I think they topped his wife. Anyway, his wife ended up getting hit by a car or something. I mean, it was a terrible accident. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. And he's excellent. If you go and have a look at his research, but he was looking at how Google had the ability to sway elections as much as like 60% or something crazy like this.
Wow.
Yeah. And so and they were doing that. Like he was recording. He put recorders on a big sample batch of people's computers and watch what the results were coming back out of their Google searches. And they had all these bias articles to swing the swinger voters from one side to the other.
Yep.
And so this is happening. This isn't theory. This is like actual.
Right. Well, I think one important point in that issue of politics, elections, that is the term democracy and opinion has been profoundly misused intentionally.
Yeah.
And this, so we have this evolving society in which people say, well, my opinion is this, I believe this. But scientific fact, truth, is not democratic. I mean, we don't vote. I mean, if you're voting on what's true, then you're a lost cause, because truth is not determined by how many people believe it. But that's the culture that we're being fed, and we're increasingly getting people say, well, I believe that this is true, and a lot of people believe this is true. I mean, we saw it with COVID particularly. Therefore, it must be true, right? If 90% of people are saying this is true, or 90% of doctors believe.
It's people that are operating off of moral relevancy as opposed to a true moral compass, and being morally moral relevance is well, they're all saying that this is right and it's okay. Then it's right and it's okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, it's a mob rule. It's also an inherent part of a human's social
fitting in and going along with the deal.
We fit in, or else we don't get laid, or we don't. You know what I mean? That's what it's like. Like that's the way that they think. Like if you're, and the inherent thing is for people to reproduce, and so they need to fit into a group in order to make that happen, right? And so that's the biggest fear for a lot of people. It's an inherent fear that they don't fit in to the group. And if they don't, then they're alone, and that's a survival thing that we have. And so,
we see.
And they've played on
back
that. That's been weaponized
from the 1950s, and then the 60s, the MK Ultra, all the way through what was done at Guantanamo Bay. There and many programs which remain classified. There are all these continued experiments by corporate and government contractors to figure out what the weaknesses of the human mind are, right? what are the contradictions between the parts of the brain, how you can manipulate people over time, modify behavior, and the main points are use of trauma, the sort of the alternation between trauma and boredom,
Right.
which is extremely effective, and the trauma is effective because it causes the amygdala, the fight or flight part of the brainstem to override the prefrontal cortex. And so you think you're acting rationally, but in fact you're acting in a totally emotional manner.
And that's why
and
your
then
decision, your decision
boredom,
making, your mood, whether you're happy or depressed,
right.
all those things is the prefrontal cortex, and that's the part they attack. Your ability to make.
Right. So
definitely...
the effect of these trauma is it gets people to think, to believe that they're being rational, that their evaluation, their decisions are totally rational, totally clear, totally based on fact, when in fact it's the complete opposite. They're scared, they're intimidated, they're in what's the classic fight or flight mode.
Right. And
I can vouch for that. I can vouch for
that. When you're in this fight or flight mode, your body produces endorphins that is multiple times stronger than they say is as cocaine. But over time, that that mechanism is rendered useless, kind of like with diabetes and your the insulin in your pancreas. And the same process with this fight or flight. And once that's rendered useless, I don't know what's next, but I guess that's makes it a clearer palette or cleaner palette for being able to control, manipulate the populace. Well, we've lost
David there.
Well,
sorry, I'm back.
Now we got him back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm all right. I just needed I was just having a little.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That's all. Okay. And so, yeah, absolutely.
My sister called that stupid
stick. It's stupid stick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You've got the vapors out of the sky. So
by the time I figure out that the vape's killing me, I'll be dead. So. That's how my rational error there.
Right. Well, at least you get to choose that one as opposed to the others.
Right. You have to be a polymath these days in so many fields in order just to see what's going on, right? And right. that's the big problem. And
it's hard.
This is why I think our education system's the way it is. It focuses you in on this little thing so that no one really able to see clearly. And so neuroscience, right. Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, if people actually just got their heads around the players who are doing these experiments to go, oh yeah, we want to know what happens if we isolate this group of rats from this one and apply pressure on this one and see what happens. Right. It's not about, they're not doing that just for fun. Right. All of these have an agenda. They have an agenda, and the agenda is quite clear, and that is controlling the people en masse. And so I've got a heap of people who are...
with it. We had a problem with the monkeys and all the animals, and oh my God, we can't have that, and don't hear any of that anymore. I'm afraid we've become the monkeys.
Right, exactly right. Hey, yeah, it's quite funny. I think just recognizing that we've got a ruling class who is very, very interested in controlling the minds of the people as much as possible. So they capture the hearts and minds, and now they've got technological means which can, as you say, they can affect that fight and flight centers, but they can also affect so much more. They can put you into a receptive state for hypnosis.
Right.
They can send voices into your subconscious using radio. Once you're impregnated
we're talking about the ruling class,
this stuff can sit inside.
Ruling class of George Soros, and Bill Gates, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they can do so much, and just that concept of, as you said, trauma. You couple that trauma with subconscious programming, which is like below audible, but your subconscious hears it. Then
Right.
they can send messages into your head while you're asleep, while hitting you with frequency, put you in a brainwave
suggestion. I couldn't get that out.
Suggestion, and they can do that en masse. It used to be that they could target a few people here and there with the technology, but now that's rolled out to every satellite, every cell tower has that technology, and then all they need is the impregnation of the stuff that they're spraying in the sky. So the coupling of the attack on the people is nanotech plus radio free.
I mean, 50 years ago, or 40, 50 years ago, it was Muzak. Most people what Muzak is, but that was the canned elevator music you would hear in department stores and so forth. It was just simply elevator music. But
that's right.
Embedded in that was a message of telling you, I won't shoplift, I want to buy, I'm hungry, etc., etc. The FCC even stepped in to regulate that because it was people were being manipulated unbeknownst to them. Now, so this is a real thing, and it's not anything new. The concept, the ability to do it, it's just
it's very true.
High octane now, and it's far more advanced. But the same principle.
That's right. Yeah. I think there was a newsletter. It was a White House newsletter that discussed department stores using what was called ultrasonic subliminals. That is, they just above around 16,000 kilohertz that your brain you consciously cannot hear, but would have those kind of messages in exactly what you're saying there, Richard.
With visual. The same thing with visual. The Hollywood was doing it. The movie theaters were doing it.
That's
you didn't see it, but they would flash popcorn and the soda, and it would. You did not see it with the naked eye, but all of a sudden, everybody wanted popcorn. You had to have something to drink.
That's right.
And this, just imagine this. Years ago, folks, when they were doing this, it's working, and now you've got Dr. Evil looking at this deal and said, "Oh, we've got us a showstopper here," and that's what we're dealing with, I believe, on a grand scale.
Well, what has evolved with the advances in supercomputers is that they're targeting, amount of data collected on them in multiple forms, which can now be manipulated and modeled in multiple ways. But at the same time, you have databases for, African American doctors in their 50s, right? Or, certain population groups, and those can also be targeted with from advertising or all sorts of subtle ways, very specifically. And then you have things targeted at regionally, state of Mississippi or the whole country, or for that matter, the whole world. And that is another level, as you know, as you saw with COVID-19, right? I mean, we're being fed this sort of nation state.
Well, we were absolutely both.
They're all, they're all playing footsie.
Right.
That's excellent. You make such a good point.
Well, this
Emanuel, in the way that you actually.
I mean, intel is valuable. Back in the 80s, I was associated with an individual that controlled one of the most extensive or prolific lists in the United States. What and these lists to give you an idea of the technology were stored on mag tape.
Right.
And they had to be their own mag tape, and they were stored at the University of Alabama. They had a facility there to keep everything cool. It had to be temperature controlled. But if you wanted to do anything, target a specific group of people in the United States, then it was the world was your fruit basket. They could tell you if you wanted people that donated money to television ministries, they could give you that in detail. And this was in the 80s. And so this data and the demographics is essential with the program. What is the program? And that is, of course, power and control and all those things.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I think it's interesting. A great example of how this cohort-based or profiling. So imagine, I mean, the Europeans are usually really onto this stuff because of what happened in the World War, right? They were trying to round up all people of a certain demographic, namely the Jews, and anyone who was a dissident against the Nazi regime. Now, back then, it was a lot harder to identify who was against us and who was with us, right? So they had to rely on people talking and dobbing in their neighbors and all that sort of stuff, which they're also doing a bit of now as well, right? They're trying to convince people to dob in their neighbors and so on.
They're doing that. They're doing that. It's alive and well in the United States. See something.
Exactly
something,
right.
Believe it. People, and they're
that's right, mate. Yeah.
Come down here. If you see it, tell it. We don't even need your name. They'll put them on the list and have gaggles and morons follow them 24/7. And we're paying for
there you are.
dollars. And of course, these private entities are in on the deal too.
Yep.
All for the
and so
have a safer community, by the way.
Absolutely. That's all under the guise of making it safer.
Because then they'd all be out of a job. But so
well, that's another thing too, and in terms of people getting put out of jobs because they're not desirable for the authorities, you know, like getting the vaccinated economy we had here, when it was like, you know, it was like either have a shot or else you get excluded from the economy, you know, like you can't shop or you can't go into a restaurant. And so, but one of the, I think, is that start early in the of the list, which was very important for them. You had nurses and doctors were the first that had to get their jabs, and of course that would make them targetable, right? And so once they were done, then they could easily brainwash them so that all the people that they were seeing coming in with vaccine injuries, they wouldn't see them as that, because they'd been programmed, I believe, in order to make it so that in their mind they would.
It's having that Fauci, the white lab coat, the doctor, standing in front of this country and telling, and because they're in that position of presumed trust and their authority on it, that people fell for it. So of course, they had to get the people in the medical field onto this BS. And well, if they're doing it, they're saying it, then we need to be doing it. We need, and this is straight out of the CIA MK Ultra playbook.
That's right. Yeah. And so they have the two-tier attack. They have brainwashing to make them believe a certain narrative. And then anyone who steps outside of that then is seen to be visibly persecuted. So they're losing their job, or they're paraded in front of people to make sure that everyone stays in line. And then you've got the financial incentives. Oh yeah, but if you do it, then you get lots of money, you know, like for each person that you get your.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's a multi-tiered attack, and it was extremely effective. A nurse that I know who has actually had implants removed, and she worked in California for a while,
right?
And she spoke about one of her friends saying early in that she decided she wasn't getting jabbed, and she was still working, And she was walking around the hospital, and all of a sudden she had this in her mind, enter her mind. It goes, oh, I may as well just get the jab. I may as well just get it. And it wasn't her thought. She knew.
Right.
And she's like, where the hell did that just come from? But it was her own voice. She could hardly tell the difference.
Really?
And that's the level of subtlety that we're talking about. And that has been rolled out to the populace. And people don't even realize. And I've had friends where I've had something that's completely privy between me and the machine that's in my head, which I guarantee you is there 24/7 and knows everything I do. Say stuff that only me and the machine know about, and all of a sudden they just come out with this thing, and I'm like, why did you just say that? And they're like, I don't know, it just came into my head. And it's like they can't tell the difference between what is their own thought.
God forbid you ever mention that you're hearing voices and may the gaslighting begin. And so
that's right.
And so what do you do with that?
Well, there's often, I think there's in the media, there's an effort to make a sort of mainstream image of what cutting edge technology is. And so you're given a vision of like what this amazing ability of technology is.
Right.
However, what's being portrayed to you in the media is 15 years behind what's actually being done. And so people have this sort of misperception about this is the tremendous capacity. I mean, I saw this with like drones, right? Where I saw on YouTube these cutting edge drones, and but I knew immediately what they were showing, these little items, that these are, the technology is what they had 20 years ago. But the cutting edge, micro nano drones is today is not what they're showing you at all. They're intentionally sort of inducing the state of making people think they understand what Big Brother is. But that this image of Big Brother
is watered down.
And people think that Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, having self-checkouts has got something to do with technology. I'm sure it does. But every bit of we the people being dumbed down. That technology, my ass. At one time, somebody else would do this. Now I've got to do it all. God forbid you miss something. Then the police are going to drag you away. Because you didn't have any training to run a cash register, but you get it wrong, so you see what happens. And so it's a dumbing down. At the same time, people are crediting that to technology and advancement.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I mean, the most frightening to me is this effort to sort of push AI for educating infants and children, elementary school, this effort to truly sort of capture the mind in the developmental state.
Exactly.
It's one thing to have an education. I mean, for me, I'm 60 years old, so I didn't really use a computer until I was in graduate school, right? I got my first word processor in 1992. I was already 40, right? It affects not only your ability to learn, but your very perception of self. So you don't have a sense of self, that there's no gap between you and the false god, right? This creature out there which is controlling and manipulating you.
I never could figure out how to set the time on a damn VCR.
I appreciate
I never figured that out.
You're lucky.
I'm telling you.
And so it's crazy what these chatbots can do now. And it's what is terrifying though. I mean, you mentioned children. And they're exposed to the phones and all that. And yes, the phones facilitate a mechanism for actually putting voices into people's heads. Anything that is a wireless. And could you imagine, though, that these 2-year-olds are being brought up with something chattering in their head that could be anything, that could be telling them and changing their beliefs, changing their urges, changing their behaviors.
From as young as and kill everybody.
Exactly, right? Manchurian candidates. But usually they won't be that extreme. It'll be subtleties. And we have to really start to realize that our urges, beliefs, and actions are potentially being affected by something that's a machine outside of ourselves. And that is extremely dangerous. It's more dangerous than nuclear war. In
I
fact,
agree.
it has the ability to induce and incite nuclear war. And that is the problem. You put this in a leader's head, and all of a sudden, the leader goes, actually, I'm going to press that button because we're at risk.
Well,
And you can incorporate it with that frequency-based
Stalin's, I
accelerate.
believe, is a tribute to saying something to the tune of, as referring to the United States, that it wouldn't be Russia attacking during the Cold War, the United States, but they would crumble from within. And in a broader sense, that's exactly what is happening globally.
That's
what we're saying.
They're crumbling from within.
Yep. And so
they're doing it over
madness and mental illness. That's basically that's what they're going to call it. They're going to say there's been some kind of virus of the mind.
Yeah.
And they are the virus of
the mind, right?
Mass delusions.
Mass delusion. Well, that's why they say conspiracy theorists. I've been watching too much of this crap, so it's like everyone's gone a bit crazy. It's like, well, they're creating that. People have got their whole bodies under control by this technology. Like their whole body is being tweaked, and they have involuntary movements, and they, like burns or like buzzy bites on the skin, and like their head feels like it's like electrified, and all crazy stuff. Or just high pitched tinnitus that never goes away, which has messages in it that programs them to be what they want, or punishes them if they do something wrong. It's like the immediate social credit.
I would say there's sort of two parallels. One is the process for mental manipulation and external stimulation, going back to MK Ultra, basically from the end of the Second World War through the experiments in Guantanamo Bay, Gizmo, and ongoing. And many of those have never been.
I thought it was is it Gizmo or Gitmo? Gizmo. We'll go with Gizmo.
But it's paralleled. I'm sorry, through the domestication of animals, that the process by which pigs, cows, especially, but chicken as well, have been modified, had their behavior, their genes modified, and so into what's now used in factory farms. And that there's this sort of understood modified behavior of humans, so they basically follow the same track as a pig or a cow.
Your
city is going to be the equivalent of a factory farm.
You get a hamburger and French fry from McDonald's and throw it outside in the heat, and I promise you, the flies and ants won't nothing touch it. I'm
so true.
I dropped some fries and I said, "This damn thing's been laying there on that ground for 4 or 5 days, and ain't nothing got around them things." And
they probably still look the same.
Yeah, they did.
After 5 days.
And said, well, they're not taste as good as they used to, and just force them down, and it's just who knows.
Yeah.
But
a lot of working people have no choice but to eat these things. I mean, they don't have time
these things you got
to cook. Yeah, I mean, that's the only food that's available. I mean, I've seen many places in the U.S. If you're in your area, there's nowhere around where you can get real food.
No. God, no.
Exactly right. Yeah, and they make it affordable, and it's like at the moment all the common things in your supermarket, because of the financial crisis and this induced crisis that's approaching. Basically, there's all the stuff that you need to survive healthily. That's going up and up and up and up.
Right.
And your chocolate bars have never been cheaper. They've never been cheaper before. It's like relatively your chocolate bar. You can go and buy a chocolate bar for $1, where it was like $2.50 going back before the pandemic. And so it's like, how come all the chocolate and all the crap? And it's like, well, if you read the Satanic Covenant, actually, it says that they'll put all the poisons and stuff inside the kids' chocolate bars and all the sweet things that they love to eat. And it's probably what's happening. And like, I actually was quite surprised.
I mean, going grocery shopping is like shopping on Rodeo Drive now. I mean, it's like eggs and stuff that but you can get the junk That's the only thing that's going to be affordable. Something that doesn't need to
That's
be
right.
ingested.
Right.
It's easier to
Well, I
eat
mean,
junk food than it is to eat healthy food, basically.
Right.
And that's why they make the eggs all scarce. Like over here, they're doing the same thing, kill off the chickens, da 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 da. This is actually, it's so funny because they're killing off the chickens and stuff.
Well,
and taking
COVID,
over
they
your
were
fresh fruit,
slaughtering.
like all
When
your
COVID
farms.
hit, they slaughtered millions of cows. I never did understand that. The first thing they did said,
right.
we got to kill all the cows. I'm like, the cows have something to do with COVID?
Of course.
Or what's the deal with the damn cows? Because people still need to eat, don't they? Or do they? Did
No,
y'all,
I think
why did they kill all the
Hey,
cows? Anybody know? Are we allowed to ask
Yeah.
that?
well,
because
I
it's good
think if we
food.
look at the future
They
scenarios
want
for
to starve you.
control beyond COVID and I mean the AI, that famine is going to be one of the tools.
Oh, you better believe it.
And that I think that there are certain studies, and some of them have been exposed about starving
All right.
Large parts of the population. ARPA, it's been done
Well,
before. I mean, in history, it's
all
not.
great
It would not be the
genocides.
first time.
I mean, look at and all the communists, all the Marxist
Auschwitz.
ones, Stalin. You look at Mao. You look at
or Bengal, even in the British
Cambodia,
Empire. I mean,
everywhere, everywhere they always use starvation, and that's why the food shortage is something that has to continue. That's why the monetary crisis, the inflation, induced inflation, so that they can slowly people who are starving and malnourished, and of course they can get sick easier. And it's a horrible. But it's all Depop, isn't it? Population control.
Absolutely.
And population control generally.
Yeah.
Control the populace.
God just didn't think that out, think that through
them.
when he created everything. You know, he didn't think that part through, that the earth would be able to sustain itself, and they were off to the races. And of course, we won't get on global warming, but I'm sure we could get on that and have different opinions. But I think that the temperature has changed 1/100th of a degree in the last fucking 100 years. So that's and I'm in Mississippi, and people said it's it's hot, and it's hot in Mississippi there in the summertime. Hell, it always has been. And there's some been years some hotter than others,
Probably doesn't help. They're spraying a whole heap of crap in the sky at the same time.
Yeah. The UV
and
UV is out of control.
That's going to have a more of an effect what they spray in the sky than anything else.
Right.
And so I personally, with that one, it's an interesting one. But I think you've just got to look back in history. In the 70s, they were saying there was going to be an ice age.
Right.
Then we've got in the 80s, 90s, there was a hole in the ozone layer.
Right.
And then we've got and then the 2000s, all of a sudden it's global warming.
Right.
And then it goes from global warming to climate change.
Yeah, well,
so come on, make your minds up. What's happening? Is it one or the other? How have we gone from a pending ice age to a global warming in the first place?
Our DDT is killing people. It's a poison. And so now we can have hundreds of thousands of people die from malaria in poor countries. Because
it's probably genetically engineered mosquitoes.
Right.
The genetically engineered mosquitoes from Gatesy. He's been there's a whole, you look it up, genetically engineered mosquitoes from Gates. Like they've released these in heaps of populaces. Who knows what they do?
I'm telling you, they release them.
Well, it's not just mosquitoes, and I think we have to. I mean, recognize we only see the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
That certain things are made known to us, but the many of the, I mean, for example, releasing various different animals or plants into the wild, which are genetically modified. This operation is going on at a much larger scale. It's just most of it is just not you're not aware. You're not made aware of it.
True.
And
True. What we're told is always not a skerrick of what actually is going on.
Oh, no.
And that's why I like to do my own. I like to see things with my own eyes. And unfortunately, even when you've got stuff in front of your own eyes and you point that from a lot of people and you point them to it, they still can't see it for some reason.
That's right.
That's correct.
So can't see it.
This is the problem.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Richard and David, I'm really glad we were able to have this conversation on this critical topic of the true war on humanity.
Right.
And I hope maybe we can do something like this again in the near future.
We will. As for myself, I've had I've got a lot. We all do that I contend with here, and sometimes my scheduling gets off. But let's do this sooner than later.
Mhm.
Sooner than later.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have the links for as far as the folks that are following this on USAGSA, and the links for Emanuel and David. If you want to reach out to them and follow them, they're on Substack, and they're talking about some good stuff. It's informative. These guys are experts in their own right, and so I absolutely encourage you to check their stuff out, at mine as well. So, folks, until next time, we appreciate you. Share, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and God bless you.
Thank you, guys.
Much appreciated, Richard.
Personally, yeah, with that one, it's an interesting one. But I think you've just got to look back in history. In the 70s, they were saying there was going to be an ice age.
Right.
Then we've got in the 80s, 90s, there was a hole in the ozone layer.
Right.
And then we've got then the 2000s, all of a sudden it's global warming.
Right.
And then it goes from global warming to climate change.
Yeah, well,
so come on, make your minds up. What's happening? Is it one or the other? How have we gone from a pending ice age to a global warming in the first place?
Our DDT is killing people. It's a poison, and so now we can have hundreds of thousands of people die from malaria in poor countries because
it's probably genetically engineered mosquitoes.
Right.
The genetically engineered mosquitoes from Gatesy. There's a whole, you look it up, genetically engineered mosquitoes from Gates. Like they've released these in heaps of populaces. Who knows what they do?
I'm telling you, they release them.
Well, it's not just mosquitoes, and I think we have to. Recognize we only see the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
That certain things are made known to us, but the many of the, for example, releasing various different animals or plants into the wild, which are genetically modified. This operation is going on at a much larger scale. It's just, most of it is just not, you're not aware, you're not made aware of it.
True. And what we're told is always not a skerrick of what actually is going on.
Oh, no.
And that's why I like to do my own. I like to see things with my own eyes. And unfortunately, even when you've got stuff in front of your own eyes and you point that from a lot of people and you point them to it, they still can't see it for some reason.
That's right.
That's correct.
Can't see it.
This is the problem.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Richard and David, I'm really glad we were able to have this conversation on this critical topic of the true war on humanity.
Right.
And I hope maybe we can do something like this again in the near future.
We will. And as for myself, I've had I've got a lot. We all do that I contend with here, and sometimes my scheduling gets off. But let's do this sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner than later.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have the links for as far as the folks that are following this on USAGSA, and the links for Emanuel and David. If you want to reach out to them and follow them, they're on Substack, and they're talking about some good stuff. It's informative. These guys are experts in their own right, and so I absolutely encourage you to check their stuff out, and mine as well. So, folks, until next time, we appreciate you. Share, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and God bless you.
Thank you, guys.
Much appreciated, Richard.